Here, part of the Forest Service, and we do get to have you guys here at least once a month. So today's topic, very hot subject, bears. We're going to be talking a little bit about bears and some other helpful news and information that'll help keep you safe during your stay here in the White Mountains. So welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Megan. It's a pleasure to be here, always.
So last month, or last time you were here, you were talking about the cannons that were being fired.
I think Bob Amadon was here, and he was promoting an event that we sponsored with the White Mountain Interpretive Association, and there was a Passaconaway Valley Civic Association. I need to mention them. But they helped us to sponsor a Civil War reenactment over the 4th of July weekend at Russell Colbath site.
Yeah, at the big barn out on the Kankamangas.
Yeah, it was very successful. Came off very well.
Wonderful.
A lot of visitors.
Wonderful. And what happened during the event? You said...
Well, they had their camp actually authentically set up, complete with the artillery battery. They had one cannon, and the unit of people, the regiment that would fire that cannon every hour on the hour on Friday, Saturday, and part of the day on Sunday before they broke camp. Oh
my gosh.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And what happened because of the cannon being fired? You said the bears disappeared a little bit?
There's we learned something about bear behavior. We have been having an issue with bears on in our campgrounds earlier than usual this year. I think it's because of the early spring, the early breaking of migration and emergence. For whatever reason, we've had bears in all of our campgrounds, but we were having a problem in particular at Jigger Johnson.
Oh my goodness.
Right about prior to the Independence Day holiday.
Right.
And we inadvertently learned that, of course, we do know that loud noises is one way to deter bears.
Right.
We didn't expect that the intent was not to have that happen, but that weekend, apparently since the 4th of July weekend, we were having problems with, serious problems with them actually being very aggressive toward campers and into campsites.
Goodness.
And the bear has not made a reappearance since that weekend. So that was one of the good byproducts.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So what are some things you can tell people watching about bears, and if they encounter bears here in the White Mountains, what are some safety tips and information that you can share? Well, there's an expression, you might encounter them in campgrounds right now is probably the place where most people are likely to, although in trails we've had an uptick this year, in the last couple of years, of bear-human interactions. I think it's a reflection of the population is healthy. Right. They are. The numbers are growing. But just for people who don't frequent here, these aren't grizzly bears. These are black bears. These are not like the ones that tower 9 feet, 12 feet. They could tower that. They do get rather large as an adult, but the black bear is not aggressive. Naturally, its natural behavior is to turn and its sense of sight is not very good, but smelling and hearing, if it detects you, if you're upwind from it, it will be gone before you even knew it was in the area. They generally turn tail and disappear. Right. They do not want to be around humans. However, one thing that they are capable of learning, they're very smart. And there's an expression that we use that a fed bear is a dead bear, in that to try to discourage people, if you do encounter bears, they are a novelty. They're very exciting to see them, usually fleetingly, but resist the urge to do anything to encourage them, because feeding a bear, they're very smart. They learn from that I'm rewarded for approaching humans. Right. And then from that they learn that, well, backpacks sometimes have food, coolers contain food. Right. Sometimes people take that food into tents. It might be worth being a little bit more frequenting in the some bear safety tips would be keep a clean campsite, store food in bear-resistant units, keep sleeping areas free of food, and don't bury or burn food waste. Those are some good tips. And dispose of food preferably away from your campsite, in a cooler, in a locked truck, or in the cab of a vehicle. If you're in a place in the backcountry with food, it's recommended that food be hung 10 feet up in the air, with a rope in a bag, suspended between trees, or at least 5 feet out on a branch that won't support the weight of the bear. Right. So if the bear does climb the tree, in theory, it should not get the food. Now, let's talk. So we're moving on from bears to a little bit of safety concerns out on some of the water areas, like lower falls and whatnot. You mentioned a couple of things people should be concerned about. It's been a very hot summer. Been a wonderful summer. And a lot of swimming goes on in the Swift River. Lower Falls in particular, we always have a number of
incidents where people do slip on the rocks, particularly if water levels are going up and down or if people are splashing. The rocks are naturally algae covered, so that algae, when there's water, it activates a sort of a slippery effect.
Oh, yeah.
So we are just urging people, if you are going to swim in the rivers, it's protective of the bottom of your feet as well for sharp rocks, but to prevent slipping, water shoes or even just an old pair of tennis shoes that you can put on your feet to avoid the slipping, because the slipping has resulted in concussions, gashes, lacerations, and trips to the hospital. We've had that already this year.
And we don't want that to ruin your vacation. So definitely take Terry's advice and put on those sneakers. Put on those sneakers. Any other quick tips and information of advice for people before we wrap things up?
A couple of things. Another thing to be aware of on the Kank, other than always drive safely, observe the speed limit, especially this time of year. It is 40 miles an hour, 40 for most of the length other than beyond Bear Notch. So be careful and be aware that people are parking and crossing the road into the water holes.
A lot of cyclists out there.
People are watching for bears and moose, and so they're a little distracted. So be very careful. And also another thing to be aware of this year is the White Mountains is a working forest. It's a managed multiple-use forest, managed for timber and wildlife and recreation and all the good things that we get from it. There are harvests in the Kank area this year. That results in some logging trucks that will be emerging from some of our logging roads and exiting probably to the east on 16. So another thing to be cautious of.
Definitely be mindful. Can you tell us real quick the website for people watching at home who want more information on any of this? Because unfortunately we're hitting our 9:30 deadline, but for more information.
Probably won't pick up, but the website www.fs as in Forest Service, Fed as in federal government, US.US, /R9, which is Region 9, /White.
And it's on the bottom of the screen.
Or just
the guys are so good to put it right on the bottom of the screen there too, which is perfect.
Excellent. Or you can Google on the White Mountains. We do have I think it's one of the most visited national forest websites in the nation. We have an outstanding individual in Campton that keeps it up to date, and there's a wealth of information about anything you might want to know, and we're afraid to ask. Oh,
perfect. Well, this is great, Terry. I really appreciate your time this morning. I apologize we have to wrap things up here on White Mountains today, but again, if you want any more information, the ranger station is also located right at the mouth of the Kank,
right at the
intersection in Conway of Kankamangas and Route 16. So stop on in if you have any questions. Terry, thanks so much.
Always a pleasure, Megan.
And we'll be right back to wrap things up on White Mountains today.
It's race time.